You might not know this, but I have been on YouTube for quite some time now. And I'm not talking about the vlogs that I made when I was 12 years old, but one of my very first on-video philosophy videos from 2020. They're not the best, but I did make a video on how easy it would be to write a scary movie, specifically with phenomenology, but I never actually wrote a scary movie for the video or otherwise. So I started writing one. Philosophers can also write fiction. So when it comes to the easiness of writing a scary movie, this is pretty much because I've watched thousands of them and can generally guess every single thing that's going to happen, even like people's lines and exactly what they're going to say. But that doesn't mean anything in the sort of writing it to begin with. As some of my longtime viewers may know, I've been wanting to write a book for a really long time now, specifically on philosophy of existentialism, which is sort of like my bag, baby. But in the fact that I haven't had like the momentum and encouragement and inspiration to write my philosophical book, I kind of realized my first book doesn't have to be philosophy. There are many good books out there that aren't philosophical in their direct nature, and I've honestly been digging a bunch of fiction this year, specifically scary stories, because, you know, I like to be scared. Now, obviously, most books, fiction, are philosophical in their truest nature and have some sort of main theme, aka a philosophy that they try to push out. But for some reason, I did not give myself any sort of permission to read fiction for a very, very long time. Outside of the classics of, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, The Brave New World, all of those classics, and a couple of the ones on my bookshelf here. When it comes to reading new books, now I'm all like, it has to be philosophy, nothing else, right? But not necessarily. I've been digging a ton of Audible books lately, but in order to get my boyfriend to read them, they can't be boring philosophical books. And so he's been suggesting other things, fiction. Long story short, if I'm not just going to solely read philosophy, I shouldn't solely write philosophy, and understand the fact that philosophers can also write fiction. It's such a silly, silly, obvious thing. And so, speaking of things like Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, did you know that Aldous also wrote a book called The Perennial Philosophy? To which I don't think I've ever read, because how is that as interesting as The Brave New World? And so just thinking about that thinking about that on top of your mind, why not write fiction? Boom, boom, boom. And so with that, we get the permission for fiction. So philosophers, just start writing. It doesn't have to be anything super deep like the will to power or being in time or, the lily in the field and the flower in the valley or something like that. Why not just start with putting out philosophies via stories? Some even say that Nietzsche's best work out there is Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And who'd have guessed it that this is actually Nietzsche's only fiction work that really exists. So, there you go. Just go ahead and write a story and see about adding philosophy into it. Easy as that, right? So, yes, I've definitely started writing my own book. It is called Midterm Murders, and it basically embraces every cliche you could find in a slasher film in a book. I'm very excited to attempt to at least add some sort of philosophical nature to a story. I texted my sister today, and she absolutely loves writing fiction, creative writing, and all that jazz. And she's just like, "What? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you text me right away?" It was so awesome and amazing. And sister, if you're listening, I love you. But the first thing you ever need to do when writing a book, and I'm not going to say this like I know, and I've written many. Obviously, I've not even finished Act 1.
Well, the first thing they should have is an idea, and then, well, first you need something to write with. They know that.
But what you need to do to write a book is to outline all of your ideas first. My sister sent me an outline plot chart, and it had like 72 things as a list to go through Act 1, 2, and 3. Oh my goodness. I made myself one, and it's just got 7 categories. But these categories include characters, plot, setting, perspective, style, theme, and literary devices. So, one very important thing that I found in my research for when writing a specifically meaningful book is allegories. Let me look up a definition of that real quick. Allegory, from Oxford Languages, says a story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or a political one. For our ethical nerds out there, if we're implying a moral, this would be like any classic folk tale turned into a very long book, where you say, "Be a good boy, or else the witch will kill you." Or if it's a political philosophy, you could write a whole book on why things, very specifically things, are very bad. Or maybe you're in a future in which all of these laws have been turned through their, utmost rottenness. You can see how they turn very, very bad. I was personally thinking about writing a semi-moral, semi-political allegory type of movie, which is, like eat the rich because they're the worst sort of thing. But it's really difficult to add that to a story and not make it super duper obvious. So that's something I've been juggling around with in my brain. When it comes to writing stories, I have like no experience, so I'm really just trying to have fun with it and not seriously try to make it like the deepest stuff in the world. I've never actually written something super duper long either. And so with all of this inexperience, basically what we're doing here is having fun and practicing for the real thing. We can always work up to things like Nietzsche's most amazing philosophical works, or, your favorite philosopher. Or we can work up to other works like Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, all of those super meaningful, like Logan's Run, just like a movie, a screenplay, whatever you want to write. We have to work up to this. If we want to be the most deepest, profoundest writers and flip out movies like They Live or other ones, then we have to work up to this and practice. So I'm working on a story now. Will it be the best work ever? Probably not. But will I attempt to make a beautiful book? Definitely. For sure. 100%. Not to mention, when you make a video saying writing a scary movie would be child's play, I feel like you kind of gotta do it. I gotta say though, after writing so much, oh, who's blowing on my Skype? I gotta say, after writing so much and filling out like a whole outline as well as making a more visual happenings of the acts, as well as like a timeline and generational family tree and just a page full of notes, and a calendar, because you need a calendar for your story. So after making all of those pages of notes for my story, the picture that my sister sent over with like so many bullet points to write on, like to follow step by step, looks actually a lot less daunting. But I am curious if it's absolutely necessary to follow these, all of these templates and formats exactly perfectly. Like, does everyone need to go through the same exact hero's journey? No, not really, not necessarily whatsoever. I think the more unique and imaginative you can get while still like having the same feel of the composition of the story being amazing, then you do you. I am definitely gonna take another look at what my sister sent me and maybe write out what each one would be, but definitely not to a T, guys. Ubermensch just don't follow templates, am I right? So I know this video is gonna be super duper short, maybe semi off niche for our channel here, but Artemers, I think when it comes to the Artem Alexander channel, there's nothing exactly off niche. Everything is art, philosophy, and trying to make the world a better place. Classic cliches are my thing. For anyone interested in details about the book, cliches are going to be up the wazoo. Girl next door, boy next door, cheerleader, footballer, big nerd, goth chick, like everybody that you need in the cliche clique is in it. I'm super excited to write it. As I do it, all of their personalities just shine through. It's so fun. I feel like everybody has that facet of their own personality, the bimbo, the jock, the stony baloney, just the happy, the frowny, we're all that kind of guy, right? I'm super excited to write it. I'm super hopeful that I've inspired you to maybe set aside any feelings about writing fiction and forcing yourself to write a philosophical, deep and profound stuff. Because we can take things to silly places all the time and still be deep and profound. Or we don't have to be. Maybe we can work up to that. That's what I'm saying. Everything's practice. Everything's a good time. Everything's a good time. I think that's gonna be it for me, guys. Again, I love you guys so much and your support and all of your amazingness. If you have any thoughts on rating fiction or nonfiction, please drop them in the comments below. Give her a like if you like this, dislike if you didn't. I wouldn't be heartbroken, just a little bit. So in that case, I will see you guys way closer to Halloween next time, so that'll be really exciting. The best season of them all. Yeah. I toodaloo, guys. I love you. Bye.